My father would go running in the forest. It was a pastime of his, something he had done his entire life. He would run through trees, down mossy paths and trails that were barely there. He felt at home there, alone in the woods. One day he asked if I'd like to come along. I said yes. We ran down the long, narrow driveway to our house and along a short stretch of road before we veered into the woods along a soft path covered in pine needles. It was a familiar path near the house, one I had followed many times before, but this time was different. I had never joined my father on one of his runs before. All around us, thick trunks clad in rough bark rose toward the skies. High above our heads, a lazy breeze swept through the canopies of these grand pines. It was a warm, sunny summer's day, perfect for a spot of exercise out in the wild. Then our surroundings changed. The path widened. The trees grew sparse. The soft moss and leathery green leaves of the lingonberry brush along the path gave way to bare soil down both sides of a narrow, shallow stream. I stared at it, fascinated by the odd orange color of the muddy soil. It was as though the water was weaving its way through very fine rust. A stillness settled upon us as we approached the stream. The steady thudding of our feet quieted, softened by that strange rusty mud. The gentle burbling of the stream filled the air, soothing and inviting on a sunny summer's day. As my father crossed the stream, an unexpected shape a little farther down caught my eye. It was a large gray stone, perfectly round with a square hole in the middle. I asked my father what it was. "A millstone," he said. At the time I accepted his explanation with no further thought. Too young to wonder what a millstone would be doing in the middle of nowhere, with no trace of the rest of the mill or any other signs of human civilization. But even back then, the stone struck me as odd. It wasn't sunk into the mud or overgrown by anything. It was just there, as though laid out on display. I wanted to stop and explore this strange place, but my father kept running. Afraid of losing track of him and getting lost, I followed. The rusty soil beneath my feet turned into another path of hard-packed soil beneath a blanket of pine needles. The quiet hum of the stream faded, replaced by bird song and the sound of wind in the trees. Soon, it was as though it had never existed at all. I didn't know it at the time, but I would never see that strange, quiet place again. But the memory of it, I could never get it out of my mind. Welcome to Odd Little Tales, an ongoing project that examines the strange and the unusual through the eyes of a skeptic. While I approach these stories from a skeptical point of view, I have no wish to dismiss or mock them. Something happened. Something was the spark that brought them to life. I seek to understand these strange experiences, to, perhaps, discover even stranger truths buried within them. So please, make yourself comfortable and join me as I investigate this odd little tale. Many of us have heard tell of some strange place that delights its visitors for a fleeting moment before it mysteriously vanishes, sometimes for years, decades, or centuries, sometimes forever. Atlantis, the mythical island that sank into the sea, might be the most renowned example, but similar tales are told all over the world, from lost cities and civilizations to hole-in-the-wall restaurants and odd shops that seem to vanish into thin air after that first unforgettable visit. Some of these phantom places are said to be parallel dimensions, other realities that exist alongside our own. In locations where the border between these worlds grows thin, a person might slip from one into the other. Some places are supposedly haunted by some lingering remnant of times gone by, or by otherworldly beings like the Fae, who are able to distort and control our perception of reality. Some of these places are inviting, tempting us to come closer and step inside. Others immediately feel off. Forests inhabit their own special niche within such myths and legends. When we humans step inside, we leave the familiar, controlled environs of our cities and homes and enter the realm of the wild and untamed. We are visitors there. We must abide not by our own rules, but those of nature. Is it any wonder, then, that folklores from across the world teem with forest spirits, guardians, dryads, nymphs, trolls, and witches, and all manner of other willful beings who have claimed the woods as their own? Forests of old promised both bounty and danger. To venture into them was to risk one's life. Some of those who did never came back. Finnish folklore speaks of metsänpeitto, which directly translates to the forest's cover or blanket. It was both a state and a place. Those who entered, whether human or livestock, became covered by the forest. One moment the path ahead would be known and familiar, the next it would seem different, strange. One might feel odd or out of place. The forest might fall silent. No bird song, no wind. Sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? To others, the person caught in this state would seem to disappear. Anyone passing by the missing person would simply see them as another stump or rock. Some tried to free themselves from the state by turning to spells or clever tricks, like turning their clothes inside out. Some would get lucky and simply wander back out again after a while, but some unlucky few would never be seen again. Interestingly enough, turning clothes inside out in order to break free of confusion and to find one's way again is a trick that comes up again and again across cultures. In Celtic folklore, it's used to defend against tricks played by fairies and pixies. In the Philippines, it wards off evil spirits that try to make people lose their way. So, why is wearing clothes inside out such a common solution? As far as I can tell, the point is to confuse whatever power first tried to confuse you into getting lost. However, what I was truly struck by is the prevalence of the kind of unexpected disorientation and alienation that this trick is meant to solve. It suggests that this experience is intrinsically human, rather than something regional or cultural. Something about us, be it pure biology, or something less tangible, makes us prone to these experiences. Many of these beliefs can be attributed to people doing their best to create sense out of chaos. They served as cautionary tales and reminders to stay vigilant in situations where danger was near. Interestingly, there are also psychological phenomena that could explain such tales of familiar places suddenly turning into something different and unknown. Dissociation, for example, is a state of detachment from one's surroundings, often in response to trauma or high levels of stress. The brain attempts to distance itself from an overwhelming experience as a defense mechanism. If a person were to realize that they are lost in the woods with no way of finding their way back home, it is feasible that the accompanying fear and distress could trigger such a state, especially if said person believed they had been abducted and trapped by the powerful beings that ruled the forest. When it comes to more fleeting feelings of strangeness, there is also jamais vu. You have likely heard of déjà vu before, which refers to experiencing a new place or situation as something familiar, as something you have already seen, even when it should logically be impossible. Jamais vu is the term for the opposite, where the familiar is perceived as something unknown. This can be a place, a person, or even a word you should already know. Jamais vu is a temporary mismatch between the parts of the brain that process memory and perception. It's a documented phenomenon, albeit one that still needs further research into the underlying mechanisms. While it has been linked to conditions like epilepsy and migraines, you can also induce it yourself. Stare at a word for too long, and it begins to look wrong, even when spelled correctly. Stare at it even longer, and eventually it becomes nothing more than a mess of letters, devoid of the meaning it should hold. While dissociation or jamais vu may play a role in some of these tales, neither seems right for my own experience. That run through the forest was a genuinely novel experience. It wasn't overwhelming or frightening, just exhilarating. My father and I would continue to venture into the woods together, but he never took me that deep into the forest again. I would later ask him about this rusty stream, but years had passed by then, and he couldn't quite recall anything that matched my description. I searched for it, though. I grew up in those woods, inherited my father's love for them. I spent days upon weeks upon months wandering alone amongst those prickly firs and towering pines. I knew those forests like the back of my hand, but I never found that stream again. I could never forget it, either. There are simple, perfectly plausible explanations. I was young at the time, running through deeper woods than I had ever dared venture into on my own before. I could have gotten turned around, lost my sense of direction and space. Young as I was, the experience may have made a lasting impression on me simply because it was something new, something I had never seen before. The brain is wired to notice novelty after all, to highlight anything that doesn't fit expected patterns. Add in the emotional excitement of my first ever run in the woods with my father, and you have the perfect cocktail of brain signals that would cement the experience in my young, impressionable mind. This also explains why my father seemed to have no memory of this place. To a man with 4 decades worth of experience, it simply wasn't unusual enough to stick in his mind. As for why I could never find the stream again, it is possible that it only existed for a brief moment in time. Perhaps my memory omitted preceding days of heavy rain, that caused some nearby body of water to overflow temporarily. Once the water levels normalized, the stream quite literally disappeared. Depending on the source of the water, it could also explain the distinct discoloration of the mud. The same rationale can also apply to urban legends of disappearing shops and restaurants. The reason their bewildered visitors remember them at all is that they provided an unexpectedly unforgettable experience. Perhaps the wares on sale were odd, the staff quirky. Perhaps the food was unexpectedly delicious. Perhaps the vibes were off. Whatever the reason, it made the location stand out at the time, enough to leave a deep imprint on the visitor's long-term memory. But perhaps the correct route to that unforgettable place wasn't as memorable. Perhaps that place closed its doors shortly after. Businesses spring up and move and close all the time, after all. I do think my elusive stream can be explained by some combination of these mundane theories. Yet even though the logic makes sense, I must admit there is something both eerie and alluring about the way that memory lingers. Something about the way it makes me feel whenever I think of it. Even now, decades later, I remember that stream so clearly. That strange, rusty red mud, the lone millstone, the stillness of it all. I long to see that place again, just one more time. Thank you for listening to this odd little tale. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe for more odd tales in the future. Until next time, don't veer too far off the known path.